Just 3 or 4 years ago, budget 4K gaming monitors didn't make a whole lot of sense, because those who could actually afford to drive such a display, and I don't just mean the resolution, but also the appropriate amount of performance in terms of frames per second and the visual quality, could often find themselves being able to purchase a premium 4K display as well. But times are changing very quickly, and even mid-range GPUs are now able to drive higher resolution, high refresh rate displays because of technologies such as NVIDIA's DLSS with the transformer model, improving visual quality significantly even with the performance preset. We have AMD hot on their heels with FSR4 and their Redstone enhancements. And that's to say nothing of games consoles such as the PS5 Pro becoming a lot more popular. And so I was delighted when KTC reached out to me asking if I'd be interested in taking a look at the H27P22 monitor. It's G-Sync and FreeSync compatible, 160Hz and 4K. So yeah, given the pricing of this thing, which is typically well under $400 US, especially if it goes on sale, it's actually very impressive indeed. Now this is a sponsored video, but they haven't given me any talking points, so yeah, we're going to be taking a look at this thing. I've been testing out for just over a week now, and honestly, it's really interesting. Now, do remember that sure, if you buy a high-performing gaming PC, with a really nice graphics card and CPU, all of that is great, but for those of you who have been into PC gaming or, using a computer for any length of time, you'll know that the monitor is honestly a massive deal. And if you're anything like me, you'll probably be racking up hundreds of hours a month just staring at this thing. So a good screen is actually a really important investment. And even if you're not interested in this particular monitor from KTC, then you can of course find a link in the video description for additional screens. They've got ones for different budgets, different resolutions, and different usage scenarios. But with that said, let's just start, shall we? KTC wisely kept colours and accents to a minimum with the H27P22, instead focusing your attention on the panel itself. It's framed with thin black borders at the top and both sides and a slightly thicker border at the bottom. This is to accommodate the silver KTC logo. Aside from the logo in the right hand corner, there is also a blue LED light, and yeah, that's of course pretty much it. Aside from that, this stand is also minimally distracting with only a red colour accent for the cable management hole. I should also mention that the stand is stable enough. You can of course mount it using Vaser, but I'm sticking with the stand for my testing. It's also worth noting that the stand is ridiculously easy to take on and off. You simply basically just pull a lever. It's really nice. You don't need to worry about screws. It's very, very, very convenient. But aside from that, the monitor, when using the stand, has all of the typical adjustments. You can swivel side to side, rotate from landscape to portrait, and of course tilt. For my day-to-day usage, it's felt stable enough. It doesn't feel like it's going to tip over or wobble too much when I'm using the OSD joystick or plugging a device in and out. But back on the display itself, there is that single OSD joystick which sits on the unit's right hand side at the back. This allows you to control, well, the OSD, and also doubles up on the power button. It's also directly positioned behind the power LED. This means you can easily locate it from the front, but I'll go more into its functionality and menus in just a moment. There's also a W-shaped recess and a couple of vents and a few other decorative designs at the rear of the monitor on the casing, but of course this is mostly just decorative, but still it looks kind of cool, I guess. For the monitor's ports, I think they're going to be more than enough for most people, especially for this kind of budget. You've got yourself a DC barrel connector, which of course snakes out to the typical power brick. A USB 2.0, this is for service only, so you can update the monitor's firmware should you so need to or desire. There's two HDMI 2.1 connections. This allows you to plug in a device up to 4K 160Hz and two 4K 160Hz DP 1.4s as well. For those who need it, there's also a 3.5mm headphone jack if you don't want to plug your headphones directly into your PC or games console, or you've got maybe an older pair of headphones and your fancy new console or what have you doesn't support that particular barrel connector. So let's focus on the OSD functionality. Now, honestly, it works pretty much like you would expect from any OSD joystick. It's pretty intuitive, and there are shortcuts that you would expect. You can easily switch between the various inputs. For example, you can go from HDMI 2 to DP2, which is good if you're using, let's say, a PS5 and your PC. There's a few preset modes you can choose from, for example, gaming, but at least in my personal opinion, the default brightness, it was a little bit too high. You can easily just choose user and tweak this around. I personally found setting it to around 70 was really nice. You can also enable overdrive, get information regarding the connection and refresh rates, which is nice to sanity check that you've got FreeSync/G-Sync enabled on a piece of content. You can adjust the location of the OSD if that's something that you need to do, update firmware, change the color, contrast, saturation, all of the other things you would expect for any decent monitor. Under the user mode, you're even able to adjust color balances between red, green and blue, but honestly, from my personal experience, the monitor was well enough calibrated out of the box. I would personally suggest, like I mentioned a moment ago, you nudge the brightness down a little bit, but this is a common trait for many displays when they're kind of showcasing the display on, like, like in a shop or something like that. Now, as for the panel, it's 160Hz 4K capable and based on IPS. The official specifications point to a 400 nit brightness with a contrast ratio of 1000:1 and response times of 1 ms G to G. It's really hard to show off in a video, but the angles for the display are absolutely excellent. The colors remain clear and vibrant, and fine details such as text and icons are easy to make out, even at the extreme corners and edges of the display. Now, the panel is not 10-bit, but instead has this fancy schmancy technology. It's 8-bit high FRC. This kind of allows it to display over 1 billion colors, and essentially therefore gets closer to the visual fidelity of a 10-bit color display, which again, the screen itself doesn't natively support. What it does with high FRC is essentially swap the panel backwards and forwards really quickly on a pixel between two colors. And so, because of the speed it does this, your eyes are essentially tricked into perceiving a new color. It works really well, and from my personal experience anyway, it looks really good. On my display unit, I also couldn't notice any obvious stuck or dead pixels, problems with lack of backlight uniformity or anything like that. But do note, I am judging this on a sample size of a single screen that again was sent to me for this showcase. It's a good sign, but I think lack of panel uniformity now is becoming much less of a big deal anyway. Now, in my personal experience with the display over the past week or so, games look absolutely fantastic. I will admit, I don't really play fast Twitch multiplayer games now, such as Valorant. Instead, titles such as Doom, The Dark Ages, Resident Evil, Cyberpunk, Spider-Man 2 are much more my thing. But across all of the games that I tested, the monitor performed super well. There was really nice detail retention in dark areas, and the highlights didn't get blown out, which is really nice in bright lights or ray trace reflections, such as, say, in Night City. There was even, of course, a demo now of Shinobi Art of Vengeance, which is pretty damn cool, especially as I'm a big fan of Shinobi. And I actually experienced it on the monitor for the first time, and it looks absolutely gorgeous with the pixel art. So if you are a gamer that doesn't need every last drop of performance and you are playing those games such as Valorant, there are also overdrive modes that I mentioned a moment ago from the OSD. This allows you to go from off, which is how I chose to experience the monitor, standard, advanced and ultra fast. As I said, I didn't really feel the need to use them because from my experience, especially with FreeSync, it just played absolutely beautifully with games like Doom and God of War Ragnarok. Now, there are no speakers on this unit at all. You can certainly make use of the 3.5mm headphone jack and also adjust the audio levels. So this means that you can plug in your PC to your monitor via HDMI, for example, and then plug your headphones into the screen and, listen like that. But there are no internal speakers. Honestly, internal speakers, they can be kind of useful for, say, a short YouTube video, But let's just be honest, monitor speakers typically are not exactly the best sounding. Hell, even high-end smart TVs typically are best paired with like a soundbar or a surround sound setup for this exact reason. Occasionally I will admit that internal speakers can be useful, but if you're doing any form of serious gaming, yeah, you're going to want to use headphones. So guys, again, I want to thank KTC for sponsoring this video, and it's been really nice actually to take a look at the H27P22 monitor. KTC, standing for Key to Combat, were established back in 1995, serving as a leading partner for companies such as Samsung and ViewSonic. Plus, among many trophies for their cabinet is the coveted Red Dot Design Award for their US 2720S mini LED gaming monitor. And actually this is a true story. When 1920 by 1200 resolution monitors were high-end, I managed to get a really good deal on a KTC manufactured monitor, and it served as my main screen throughout many years of service. But getting back to the main point, they've a massive range of both gaming-focused screens and displays aimed at the professional market. Anyway, you can click the link in the description to find out more about their range of screens, including the H27P22S, which is the screen featured in this showcase, and many more. It's really cool that we're now starting to get high refresh rate displays that are actually very capable and actually at prices that make a lot of sense to people. Again, I'm not exactly a Twitch-based shooter fan, but even so, going from like 60 Hz to 120 Hz or a slightly faster display is really important to me, and yeah, it's been really nice to actually take a look at the screen. Thanks of course to you for well, watching the content. At the end of the day, content like this, you know, sponsored stuff is what really kind of brings in the revenue on YouTube, as I'm sure many of you know. There'll be a lot more content coming up on the channel over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, I've been dealing with stuff in the last month or two, but now I'm kind of back to normal. So I'm starting to get through the backlog of content. And of course, once again, thanks to KTC for sponsoring the video. For further information on the monitor, of course, you can find links in the video description, as well as a link to their product page with tons of different monitors for gamers or content professionals and so on. With that said, thanks very much for watching the video, and I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.